Okay, so I will go ahead and start with an introduction. I just wanted to introduce Henry, who is a third-year doctoral student and graduate student instructor in language literacy and culture cluster at the University of California, Berkeley. He is a first generation college student from an indigenous Maya Mam immigrant family from Guatemala. Henry's life and scholarship are grounded in resilience, community, and a deep commitment to the cultural revitalization. Using ethnographic and community-centered methods, Henry explores the dynamics of multilingualism and translanguaging in Oakland Unified School District and within the broader Mayan Mam community in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm so excited to hear your presentation, Henry, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Okay, it's a pleasure, to be here. So thank you for that introduction. So hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. So I just want to remind that English is my third language. So if don't quite hear me well, let me know. So I'm happy to repeat it again. And so yeah. So this is the title that I have today, just Mom Diaspora, and I'll be talking about translanguage and ancestral knowledge. Let's go. Thank you for. Okay, so I'm not really gonna go deep into this. I think Crystal did a great job, like introducing me. But that's just me, and that's a traditional clothes that I wear sometime here. So I've been in the Bay. So yes, she mentioned that I speak three languages. Yeah, my first language was mom, and then at the age of 12 or 13, I became fluent in Spanish. Then when I moved to the state, I started learning English, and I'm still learning, but that's where I'm at right now. So, and the name of the town where I'm from originally is San Juan Atitan. It's closer to Mexico, to the border, so that's where I'm from. And then, so here's some of the topics that I will be talking today, and then so I would say like I work with the Hmong community primarily, I've been conducting like ethnographic research on Hmong people, Hmong language, letters, and community life in Auckland. So my hope today is that you live with the window into the Mam Diaspora and the Translanguage and ancestral knowledge in Auckland. So that's my hope today. Then this is some of the framework that I'll be using today, like and then I'll be focused on a lot of translanguage and ancestral knowledge. I know Ophelia Garcia. I don't know if you know her, but she's a scholar. Lady, her work is mainly about translanguaging. She came last week to Berkeley, and then I was very fortunate to be there because I got to learn a lot from her. So she said this language has often been constructed through a colonial logic that fails to recognize the practice of minoritized speakers. From this perspective, translanguage can be understood as a decolonial approach. So, I'll introduce one of my findings here. So before I introduce, I just want to like invite everyone here into this smaller exercise that we want to do today. I call it mapping our linguistic wealth. So maybe think about one word or phrase that you use with family or community that does not translate perfectly into English or in another language. So think about one. So maybe you can just share in the chat, and I'll just take a look at the chat. Like think about one phrase, or maybe like from English to other language that you don't think that it's translated perfectly, right? So okay, I'll take a look at the chat. So uh, okay, anyone, please, you can just. I know, I know you have some words like. I'll start with one. So I used to be oh, there you go. Meaning thanks to your hands for cooking. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Hi, hi. Is that Insi? I'm sorry, I may be mispronouncing your name, but you wanna like pronounce this for us?
Yes, Inji.
Angie.
Hi, Henry.
So, yeah, tell us a little bit about it.
It doesn't translate exactly. It's very common in the language of Turkish that after meals, you thank to the person who cooks the meal, like, and it's very commonly being used, but it doesn't exist in English. And I don't think I haven't. I mean, I speak a few other languages too, but I don't think that it exists, as far as I know. In other, it
Yeah,
doesn't translate exactly in other languages too. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Thank you for sharing a little bit.
Mhm.
That's very awesome. And then I see Doriana, más se perdió en el diluvio, more was lost into the flood. Anytime you want to get through a difficult time, yes. So that's I'm inviting you to do this because to see like um so let me just go back here and then just like give it like a little definition about the Mam Diaspora as was uh, uh, defined by this author Bra. It's about people like living, not in their homeland, but so the Mam Diaspora refers to Maya Mam people living beyond their ancestral homelands in Guatemala. So then translanguaging, I think we already saw. So translate it's a linguistic practice, it's like a pedagogy and a theory of language, and it describes the practice of dynamic by multilingual language to make sense of the word and the word. So the world and the word. So in this case, translanguage is like the everyday practice moving fluidly across languages such as Mom, Spanish, and English. And so to make meaning, communicate and express identity. And then ancestral knowledge is the wisdom, like values, practices, and ways of understanding the world that are passed down across like generations, through families, through parents, caregivers, youth, community language, land, and memory. So those are some of the definitions that I have here for the. Okay, thank you for sharing. About your linguistic wealth. So I'm just gonna give like a brief overview about the mom community here. So who are mom or what is mom? We get some questions this very often, like what does it mean to be mom or what is mom and why Oakland, right? I think that's great. So so here, so let me just move this. Okay, there you go. So Creole mom, that's how we refer to our language, like Creole, and that's the word mom. So so as you see here, Mam are indigenous people, and Mam is also the language. So Guatemala is a multilingual country where Spanish is spoken alongside with indigenous language. So it is important to not assume that all indigenous Guatemalan families are best served through Spanish alone. And then I usually suggest this for educators. One of the biggest lessons is to says like Spanish is not a substitute for mom language access. And too often, to like mom people become invisible in the U.S. And in U.S. schools and institutions. So you see here, mom is it's the second largest indigenous language in Guatemala. So it's mostly spoken on this area. See where uh, um, it's spoken also in Chiapas in Mexico, but there's a big community there, but not as big as compared to Guatemala. Um, Mom is a mom language completely unrelated to Spanish, so they have nothing to do. This is an indigenous language, and for many families and recent arrived, mom is the only fluent language that can. So then it's a language barrier, and then very proficient in Spanish. So providing Spanish is often not enough. Then oral tradition is a big thing in my community. So it's information or knowledge is traditional passed down like orally. So making written text in language a potential barrier for someone. So and then here's some facts like Spanish is the official language, but it's only for 60% of the population communicates primarily in this language. Then there's like 22 official Mayan language recognized, and then we so this community here they speak one, so that is Mam. Why? And then Oakland, why Oakland? I think it's a hub for Mam families. So uh, particularly the Fruitville and East Oakland district. So it is the home of the largest Mam speaking population in the U.S. So that's where we have. And then why here? That's a question. I think that's too broad, like that question. That's so why here? But from my work and my research, I've been it says they have established like migration networks have been made in Oakland, and Oakland is a sanctuary city, and so and a hub for jobs, housing, community support, and there's more. Then the demographics, like I see mostly young, growing population, families, asylum seekers, and essential workers contributing to the city's fabric. So that's just more information. Then here's some of the cultural pillars and values about our community. So weaving, it's huge. So Texas we believe that they are a living book of history, identity, especially for women. So that's ancestral knowledge, and then community, a collective mindset where family and community well-being come first. Then of course, definitely, work, a deep respect for hard work, agriculture provided for the family. I mentioned culture here because back home we mainly work with corn and then cornfields and yeah. So and then I'm gonna end with the mom overview, like Guatemala's immigrants saw to improve like their lives through like a strategy of Mexicanization. Like many of them will claim themselves to be Mexican or over to be Guatemala. Many of them will believe like Mexicans have more status, higher status than being Guatemala or indigenous. So and then they interpret for themselves. Some of them you refuse to eat lunch at school, and then because they're not exposed or they with this dietary that the U.S. serves. Like for example, like on a lunch, you get served a slice of pizza with milk. So some of them will refuse to eat that. That's just some of it. So now, this is the context of, you know, despite this brilliance, many of those families like navigate a critical history moment marked by erasure. Like many indigenous migrants in the U.S., Hmong communities are frequently rendered invisible in education and policy discourse. We are often, I'm using we because I'm including myself now. We are often some like under genocide in labels such as Latino or Hispanic. This is where obscures our indigenous identities, language, and our epistemologies, reproducing colonial logic over it. Okay, so that's just a little bit. So now, with that being said, we had to come and we had to build like our own spaces. We have to create our own space. We have to go knocking doors. We have to asking for support. So I just want to say thank you. I just want to acknowledge some of the awesome partners that we've been working with, and thanks to the partnership with Tribe. It's a nonprofit. It's based in East Oakland. And then Union Maya. It's just a new organization that and then along with other educators and mom leaders, we've been working on. So we have this Little Readers event that it's been happening for the past. Now we're on a second year now that we and then, so, what is the Little Readers? So you see, I have here a flyer. It is you can ignore the address, right there, because that's not the right address. So it is a community-based space for early literacy, as you see there, in Maya Mam cultural learning, where language development is connected to arts-based practice. So through intergenerational activities like weaving, storytelling, and guided reading, the park becomes a diasporic sanctuary for language practice, identity, affirmation, and community care. So that, and then with the reason that we, the little readers, or we came up with this, it's just that it's a community-based literacy initiative. Like it's emerging within broader condition of education inequality in Oakland and across the U.S. Especially for indigenous, where immigrants and indigenous often face cultural sustaining programs, right? So, and language access. So that's a little bit about. I'm gonna play here uh, some video, some clips. Like it's very, like 5 seconds, so we can get a sense of what's happening on a, when we meet. So here, you see the youth, the teachers, and community, and then we have another one here. Okay, so at Clinton Park, little readers bring together families, children, caregivers, youth, and community partners in a space where literacy, art, and culture come together. So on a typical Saturday, this is some of the videos, the two clips that you saw here. This is a typical Saturday. We begin with the welcoming check and check in. So and we do like the good morning song. So we say like good morning, good, and then we've been saying like in three language, and then move into the story circle, then literacy and art station. So first we do the welcome, and then they read the book, and then from there we do art station. Often include like weaving. Sometimes we do weaving or another cultural practice, and we close with announcement or you know community connection. So, what is especially important is that caregivers or parents serve as knowledge holders, while youth, because we saw the youth take on leadership and as facilitators and cultural brokers through like pathways connected to tribe and Maya. So I know I mentioned that I use translanguaging and ancestral knowledge. Those are, and then I use some other theoretical frameworks such as communal cultural wealth. That's by Yoso, and then desire-based research by Eve Took in 2009. She wrote that. So those are some of the other frameworks that I use, but mainly it's translanguage and ancestral knowledge by this Paque Alfonso, indigenous pedagogy. Like he talks about like el buen vivir. So we now we what we see here is that ancestral knowledge is not just something extra that gets added after the real lesson. It is a lived practice. How we teach, how we care, and how we make meaning, and how knowledge moves across generations. So see some here like interaction, little kids, they come, they have fun, they sit on the floor, and then moms bring their textiles or their traditional clothes, and then that's such knowledge they live in that to the future generation. So and then here's just more example about what the kids are doing. And then like here's one of the kid comes. Like after we read it, we ask them, "Can you come? Can you draw? Can you? What was a word that you heard? Can you come?" Then we ask them to come, and they come. They start, and they draw, right? Then they do art, and then they do amazing like art. And then you see it's all related to the book. For example, here's a and during a weaving, when they do weaving, one of the parents may not begin with a formal lecture. So that we don't begin with a formal lecture, but by showing, guiding, correcting, gently, telling a story, So and inviting children and youth to learn through their hands, observation, and participation. So it's not like sit with me. I'm gonna read this, but no, no. So those are some of the examples that I. And then from my research, I just seeing, paying attention, what's happening. The kids come in and the kids come and they sometimes they throw a word in English, they throw a word in Spanish, they sometimes they will ask something to us in three languages. They using all these like three languages. And then for me, like, and I use this term momglish, like mom, because they're sometimes they don't use Spanish. They just use English, to ask how to say something in mom. And then I use the term momglish, just to describe the way mom and English move together in communal practice. So it's not just random, it helps people include like, the parents, youth, children to support understanding and create belonging across generations. So this is not a confusion, it is tragedy and care. In classroom, that means that educators can support like the students by valuing multilingual meaning making. So here's an example of one of the phrases that the little ones they often use this. And then this is one. There's some, and then they one of the kid one of the little ones said, "Dad or Mom, right? I want to wow and host." And then I mean I was there. And then I was like, "Wow, what's going on?" And then I was just like taking notes. So what is happening here is the guav and hos. That means tortilla and egg. So guav means tortilla and hos is egg. So trans language, it gives you this to use your full linguistic repertoire to get meaning. In this case, the kid was hungry and then asking something to eat. But because in that space we were talking about tortilla, we were learning how to say tortilla and hos in mom, and then this kid comes, comes with this amazing phrase where, Dad, or Mom, I want wow and hos, right? And then we were astonished. I was like, wow, there's something happening there. So it's not we're not trying to correct them or restrict them that every time they move across language, we're not. We just let them to use their full linguistic repertoire. So that's one of the findings that I remind me, Crystal, when I'm about time. So please. So Momlis is as innovation, not deficit. So you know, for us, it's not a deficit. So to me, that's one of my findings. It's not like a deficit. When and it's not a confusion. For like we're supporting by valuing like multilingual meaning maker rather than correcting. So. And then here's some of my conclusion and implication. I know that also with my findings like Mamlish, there's other like culture ambassadors, like I see the youth, and it's community initiative led by youth. Also, like when youth come, so language revitalization is happening now in the diaspora. Yes, it is happening because we're planting those seeds. That now, if the kid was able to say like, "Dad, I want wow and horse," now we're gonna go back and say get and replace that with how do you say it in mom. Then I want, so yes, it's happening. Language revitalization can happen in the diaspora, and then I see mom people achieving every day, and that needs to be recognized. That needs to be documented, that needs to be discussed, right? So that's what I see, and then some of the implications that are call to action for educators to dismantle like monolingual structure. So for university staff or academia, institutions, the implications are practical. So first, ask families what language they prefer instead of assuming Spanish or oh, it could be other language and will work. Second, push like for better data visibility. So in this case, indigenous people are not raised under the broad labels like Latino or Hispanic. Third, like treat multilingual repertoire as a resource and invite home languages into learning. Therefore, partner with community-led led programs in ways that are supported rather than extractive. And then finally, like recognize and compensate like youth cultural labor while creating like real leadership pathways for them. And then why does this why it matters in school? Like students learn best when their full linguistic or cultural repertoire are recognized as strength, like as a strength. So it's not. not as a deficit, So translanguaging allows you to make meaning, what I've seen, not only youth, but children, like across Mam, Spanish, and English, rather than separating languages artificially, right? What another conclusion, like indigenous pedagogy remind us that learning also happens through relationship, storytelling, observation, care, weaving, and intergenerational knowledge. So, um, I I just wanna what organizations they should local governments and etc. can do better to support like uh, 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 indigenous communities or immigrants communities. So invest, in this case, invest in mom language access. We've been working with the OUSD, like how to create an assessment. Hopefully, we can assess mom students. So when they get to college, they don't have to take an elective course about taking a foreign language. So if they can get that, so they can get credit. Partner with trusted mom-led organization, fund long-term, not just pilot programs, and then meet communities where they are. Treat indigenous people as knowledge holders. So I think we have a couple minutes, so you can ask some question. I'm gonna just wrap up here. So, and this is how I say thank you in Mom, Chonte, and then Kaktan for our community. So thank you for being here. I know. Let's move into some doing. Okay, so thank you for I'm gonna stop here and then just if you have any question, um, please you can just put it here. Or, yeah. So maybe one of the questions that I ask, like, how is trans language different, like from code switching, and then code switching assumes people like move between languages, separate language, like switching channels. But to me, like trans language, you focus on how like multilingual people draw from one integrated like repertoire to communicate and learn. So, and when I see and the little readers, like families aren't switching to show off, they're using the most caring and effective way to include like children's parents, newcomers, staff, like even the teachers. So that's what I see. So please, if you have any question, feel free to. Uh,
I have a question, Henry. Thank
yes.
presentation. It was very, very uh, legible. Like I enjoyed it very much. In regards to, you were talking earlier about the students when during lunchtime, and I didn't really capture the idea or what you were trying to communicate in that area. You mentioned, I think, like certain meals, how some mom students um, will rather like they won't eat. Um, and I'm not sure if I understood that correctly, but I just kind of wanted to understand a little bit more about it. Is it because the food is different, or is there, yeah, I just want to know more about that.
Yeah. This slide, right? Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah. So thank you, Maria, for your question. Thank you for taking me back. Yeah. So at least here, some mom students, or when I say mom, like this is like general, like kindergarten, elementary, could be like high school or middle school, right? Refuses to eat lunch at school because they're not uh that's not the lunch, the the food that they eat back home. Like some of them, like they don't. So I know, and I've spoken with some of the families, and that their children refuse to eat lunch. They would rather have like beans and tortillas and eggs. That's why, like, I'm going back to my to this phrase. Like that, I want guava con arroz. That means like I want tortilla and arroz. So if this is happening at the little readers, I'm pretty sure that it's happening, here at school, like where they will want like eggs, tortillas, and beans. So that's the reason that they will refuse to eat lunch because they're not used to eat like pizza or a vegetable. You can maybe with milk, milk by itself, yeah. Does that answer the question? Yes.
Yes, I think that when you were doing the presentation, maybe I was kind of like setting something up and I didn't really capture what you were saying. And so
Mhm.
I missed that part.
No, no worries. Thank you for asking. And then, so yeah. And then sometimes when they refuse to eat lunch, think about what could have happened, right? Like they don't speak English, or they don't speak Spanish, right? They're not fluent in Spanish, so it's hard for them to ask to ask like, hey, can I get something else, right? So you see, and now they're experiencing, they're facing language barrier, right? So it's really hard for them. And then that's the third point that I have here, like mom students interpret for their fellow mom classmates. So sometimes they will rely on on other mom students who are fluent enough or brave enough to speak in English, and that they will translate for them. So yeah,
Can I ask you a second part?
yes.
Um, you said that the mom population is the largest, it's the largest concentration in Oakland. Do you know the percentage of mom students in the Oakland Unified School District?
OUC, yes. So I think that's a great question that you're asking. Um, I think I'm gonna leave this. If you can, I don't have the flyer in front of me, but last week we met with OUSD, and then we're gonna have our first ever honor roll here in East Oakland. This is happening May 23rd, where we're gonna pull out the data from OUSD. Well, they say yes, so we already put it a ticket like asking, yeah, we need all of that. So we're gonna give them a certificate. We're gonna have like a mini graduation in East Oakland. So I don't have the flyer with me, but I'm just if you can go on via Facebook or Instagram, if you can search for this. Uh, 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 Let me see here for for this logo, this picture on your Maya. We're gonna outreach it there soon. And then now to your question, I don't have that data, but we are estimating that there might be like around like 3,000 or 4,000 mom students registered at OUSD, not counting those who are registered on the labels Latino or Hispanic. Because I, I think in 2019, the program, the software that they use, it's not Sierra, Aries. They didn't have it, but until 2019, there were a new label was added, like indigenous people from Guatemala, and then they will choose that. So if they wanted to be registered, yeah, that's it. Yeah, thank you.
Henry, it looks like you have two other hands raised. I think it was first Thomas and then Marlene.
Yes.
Hi, very, very nice presentation. I really appreciate it. A lot of new knowledge for me. It's really cool that Oakland has been a sanctuary city, being the cultural hub that it is. Do you know when those migration networks started and kind of like where that started or maybe who that started with?
Yeah, I think that's another great question that I get asked a lot. Like,
Please.
like, who was the first, man family that set foot in Oakland? So, I think that's an ongoing investigation that I'm still like interviewing, asking parents as part of my research. That hopefully, that will go to my dissertation later on. But what from what I know so far is that the first family or the first person came in the 80s in Oakland when the Civil War was happening. So, and then the reason I didn't go like, too deep into like more context of why Oakland, why you guys were fleeing, why you're coming to Oakland. But the Civil War or the armed conflict that took place in Guatemala. So the genocide also, like some people will call it genocide because many our community were killed in this bloody war that I took. But so as far as I know, I can go back to the 80s, Thomas. But I can't really say like 100% accurate. But it's a still ongoing like process of like interviewing people. So yeah,
Perfect. No, no, thank you. That's awesome.
Marley.
Hi, Henry. Thank you for such a beautiful presentation. I had the honor and privilege to actually live in Guatemala. So that was like, oh, this is so cool. Yes, I lived in the Antigua um, survival mode, back in 72 when the earthquake happened in Nicaragua, where I'm from Nicaragua. So that's where my family traveled to, which was Guatemala, and that's where I ended up. And so in Antigua, and then to San Jose Pinula. Beautiful, beautiful place where people wash their clothes in the river and then the piedras, rocas, and the rocks and all of that. So all of those things were new to me. I'm thankful for Maria bringing up the diet part, because that was one of the things that I actually, for me, was all, the different flavors. It was different to me. Like
Yeah.
one, for example, was apazote. I always wonder if they find it here. Like, I mean, not that I was crazy about, but it was something like, okay, you have to have it. I was like, oh, apazote, that was one of the most common things that I know they will give. And then the smashed beans with the tiny tortillas, which I thought they were only for children. But then that was just how it's made, and all of those new things. But do you think that, I know that here, if, we are taught that if you adopt, that you are actually able to build resiliency and all of that. Do you link that, just leaving one diet for another is just adapting and leave the rest alone? Or how do you perceive, diets to be supported in the school system, maybe through events, maybe in the community? Are there the precise ingredients that are needed, at least for one dish?
Yeah, I think that's a great question that you ask about diet. As we talk about like refusing, from refusing, to eat lunch at school, and then, but before I get that, like, thank you. I know I never been in Antigua.
No.
So every time when I go, well, I travel every year to Guate, so I landed and then I go straight to my community, like to the border. So that's where I'm mostly stay. But I've been to other places such as Panajachel. Yeah, is that how you say so? Panajachel, yeah. So I'm very familiar with that. Yeah. So um. Diets, yes. Please come to our event May 23rd because we're gonna serve it. Tamales, guatemaltecos, or chuchitos, as you probably know. So, um, please come because we want to serve. We're expecting like 200 or 400 people, as with the data, and this is for Maria Ruiz. Like she asked the question about the data, like how many, and then we're expecting. This is just an estimate that we're expecting, like 100. It could be less or more, but that's the estimate that we have now. 100 plus families, we're gonna get more. So we're expecting like 300 people coming to Clinton Park. That's the place that it's gonna be an outdoors event. So you can come. But yeah, we've been advocating for to include like tortillas, eggs. In this case, the phrase that we that you saw, host and wow, right? We've been advocating for that one to be included at OUSD or in other space. It's uh, um it's not easy. It's hard. It's a big problem. I think what we are trying to do now is that we're gonna, I mean, the long term, one of the goals that we're gonna have with Union Maya and Tribe, we want to build our own school. Whether it's gonna be like a public charter, we don't know that, but that's the goal that that's one of the long-term goal that we want to accomplish, is that we want to build our own school so we can, include diets such as sorry, tortillas, beans, eggs, and other stuff, right? So, but as for now, we haven't been very successful, with mostly with OUSD, like including diets, yeah. And what's happening is that building resilience, yes, like our families, in this case, our parents, will send. I've seen this actually, because I've been observing at some schools that I see mom sending their kids like eggs, tamales, tamalitos, So now they're not only refusing to eat lunch, but they are eating, but they bring and they bring in their own lunch, So now that they, that's, yeah. So uh, I invite you to come to, the May 23rd, so you can see more. But yeah, so thank you for asking that question about the diet.
I just got one more thing to
Yeah.
add because it was two things I forgot. So before COVID, I remember I traveled on the bus to and from work, and I remember hearing a lot, whether it was Mayan or some a different dialect, which I'm assuming, I could recognize the Guatemalan population. Now you hear nothing. You don't hear, which is very like unfortunate because, but then again, it might be because they also concentrating in Oakland, which is news to me. And I love to collect words that are very like endeared to the babies. Babies, how do you say baby? And and just different language. And one of the languages that I wanted to collect, it was the dialects. I don't know if it's a dialect or is it a language.
It
For
is a language.
for It's a language, okay?
Yeah,
Because we tend to call it dialect, and
yeah. I
for
think we're
yeah.
moving from there to to language, to call it language, because it's
Yes,
a big
it's that.
population. We want to, but yes, yes. Keep going. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, I just wanted to mention that piece that, from before COVID, it was very natural, like, to have that language, that enriched language on the bus. You could hear people back and forth, whether they were on the phone, whether they were next to each other talking. And of course, Spanish is still around. You cannot make it go away, but it's just talking about the population. Where did that other population went? So, and then in recent years, it's no longer always in a subtle way that you hear it now. So I appreciate the fact that you bringing this topic up because it's a human topic. It's like we're here, we exist, we gotta acknowledge each other as humans, and then I love also that attempt to dismantle the monolingual. Language is so beautiful. This is how we communicate. This is how we branch out as global.
Thank you,
I'm
Chonte. That's the word how we say thank you. Chonte Marlin. Thank you for mention all of that. And yes, I agree. Thank you everyone for for your time. Thank you. Okay, Crystal. I think it's 10, right? Yeah.
Yes, thank you all for your time. So what's next is you